Well, hello and welcome back to another live stream. Cliff Ravenscraft here. Today, I am going to be recording another podcast. This, by the way, is not going to be episode 499 of Podcast Answer Man. It is actually going to be a behind the scenes making of Podcast Answer Man episode number 499. This is an audio only podcast that I will be producing. And today you're going to get a different experience of it than some of the other behind the scenes episodes I've done in the past, because I have the idea of what I'm going to talk about today. It's pretty easy. I could talk about it off the top of my head, but I'm actually going to show you a little bit about taking the raw idea in my mind and how I process with ChatGPT what I'm thinking about as it relates to some of this stuff. Let me just say this. If you are here to be entertained moment by moment with riveting, I'm going to be just filling you with so much excitement for everything that you're going to anticipate to come out of my mouth next. That's not what I'm here to do. Matter of fact, I'm releasing the pressure for myself to perform anything for you, because this is just an opportunity, if you would like it, to see how I work. There you go. That's all this is. And of course, I'm doing that for the replay folks, since there is now one person watching. So hello. If you happen to be seeing this on LinkedIn, there is no chat that I can see. But if you watch this on my YouTube channel, if you're watching this on Facebook, those two platforms, if you leave me a comment, I will be able to respond. The other thing is this format is not new to me, but the way that I'm doing it is new. And I'll get into that. As a matter of fact, it's going to be the topic of Podcast Answer Man episode 499. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to switch over to a different profile. So this is maybe the last time I go full screen. We'll see. It may come back. I have the ability to just press a button here. But there you go. That is going to show you real quickly. I'm going to pull up Adobe Audition so you can see it loading there. And I am going to go ahead and hit the record button, and I'm going to type in PAM for Podcast Answer Man 499, and I'm just going to click OK. Hello, 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 hello. And I'm just going to make sure if I hit play, it's coming out to you guys. I'm just going to click OK. Hello, hello, hello. It is, but it is not coming back to me in my headphones, and I'd like to change that. So let me go up here and do. That is my audio interface device. I'm going to try that again. I'm just going to click OK. Hello, 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 hello. I'm just going to click OK. Hello, hello, hello. Yep, that sounds good. All right, so I'm going to highlight all of that and delete it out. Now, it is not yet time for me to do that just yet. And so you're not going to see what I'm doing now. And I'm going to open up. I wonder, can I configure my Stream Deck and let you see that? Yeah, I guess I could. I'm not sure how well you will see it. But what I do know is that I'm going to do some things here. So give me a second. I'm going to go in and let's see. We're going to duplicate this thing here. So I'm going to take Podcast Answer Man Local Record is what it was called. It's not Local Record, but that's okay. And we're going to duplicate that. Wonderful. And this is going to be PAM Adobe. That's what I'm going to call that. That's going to be called PAM Adobe. And then let's create this other one, and it's going to be PAM Desktop. Desk 2. That's what I'm going to call it, Desk 2. All right, so now what I need to do is I need to go in here, and that's already called PAM Adobe. Let's see if I load it up, if it corrects it. For whatever reason, it's not correcting it in real time. run scene. Okay. Oh, okay. Pam Adobe. I have to name it Pam Adobe. Fine. I will do that. Okay. Let's go ahead. We're going to add a new scene. What is it called? We want to run a scene. And we're going to give this one all the way down here, Pam Desk 2. Pam Desk 2. All right. Now I should be able to modify things. So for example, one of the things that I want to do is I want to change Pam Desk 2, and Pam Desk 2 is going to get rid of that, and it's going to bring up a window. But before I open that window, I need to make sure there's nothing in here that is sensitive information. So we will go to content right there. And then let's change my window. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. For Pam Desk 2, how about an overlay that is different than that? I just need to figure out how do we do that. We go over here, and you're not seeing this. I do recognize that, but that's okay. You will see the changes. I could do classic 4x3. No. I could do 9x16. Heck to the no. I could do a squircle. I could do a circle. I could do a square. I think I'm going to do a square. So yeah, that would be right there. That would be enough. And now let me see if I'm going to be looking here. So if I'm looking this way, does it look like, yeah, I'm looking over there. Okay, so yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, we'll just go with that. I think that will work. And then I will move me. How should I do that? It's not how should I. How could I do that? Let me go into preview mode, see what that looks like. Oh, okay. Let me just go ahead and hit back to live mode. Hit publish. There we go. That's what I want. So I can, hello, I'm moving around. All right. Stop playing, Cliff. The thing is I want the ability to, can somebody say hi in the comments? I know there's only 2 of you out there, and it's a lot of pressure to put on one of you who are watching. But if you are on Facebook or YouTube, can you just at least say hello? You don't have to type in a whole long message or anything like that. But if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you could type in a comment, because what I'd like to do is craft a scene, and that's what I'm doing inside of Ecamm Live, where comments would appear. There we go. Greg Buckley's there. Thank you, Greg Buckley. All right, so now what we've got here is in this scene, I need to fix where comments would go. And I kind of like it like this. So we'll go, yeah, that looks good right there. Why can't I just go down a hair? Oh, I can go down a hair. That's beautiful. All right, so there we go. Hello, Greg Buckley, by the way. Thank you for being here. All right, so I am going to take that, and that's going to be off, which is fine. I do notice that I'm a little bit to the right. You know what? I could go there. Let me just bring that back up. Yep, there it is. Back off. Okay, now how do I bring comments up on Stream Deck? Let's it's been so long since I've used these tools that I forgot how to use them all. Configure Stream Deck. Let's go figure this out. So comments. Let's see if we go to Ecamm Live, go live, pause, next recording, publish, next scene, show hi, toggle audio player, blah, da, da, blah, da, da, blah, add last comment, post comment. I wonder what the difference between, you know what? Add last comment, and then hide last comment, and then post comment. I wonder what post comment does. Well, I just hit it and it did nothing. But there's Greg, and then take Greg on. So those are the two. So let me just get rid of post comment since I have no clue what it is. And then let's give this here, add last comment. We need to give it a title. Comment. And then I'm going to title this is just going to be hide. There we go. Comment on, comment off. Wax on, wax off. All right. That looks beautiful. Let's see here. Greg is actually asking a question. How are you, Cliff? What program are you using? Adobe? Okay, so I'm doing well. Thank you, Greg. And what program am I using? I'm currently using Ecamm Live to do all of the live streaming on all of the different platforms. I'm currently live on Facebook, which is where you are, I see, because of the little Facebook logo next to your avatar image. I'm live on YouTube right now. I'm live on LinkedIn. By the way, if you happen to be watching on LinkedIn, I won't see your comments here. So join me over on Facebook or YouTube if you want to comment with me. I'm on the X platform as well, and I don't think any X platform comments come through either. So that's what I'm using, and I'm playing around getting it all set up. And he says, thank you. I wonder if I can do this. I like that. Play last. Thank you. eStream. Got it. It's Ecamm Live, by the way. So let me, I think I can close that Stream Deck thing here. So let me go to Ecamm Live. And if I just do that, it is not there. It is ecamm.com, ecamm.com. And go to pricing, and I use the Pro account, which is $32 a month. Although I don't pay $32 a month, I have a old grandfathered sort of special sweet deal, but it's definitely worth $32 a month, especially given how much I am going to be using it even more in the days and weeks ahead. All right. Okay, so that answers Greg's question. Now I'm going to hide that here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to, that's Desk 2 scene. I'm going to go to my Adobe scene. Okay, and then to go to my Adobe scene, the idea is that Adobe will be here, but then what will it look like if I were to bring a comment up? And that's exactly what I thought. Yep, don't want that. The other thing is I noticed that I may want to adjust the size of Adobe Audition on the screen here. That is, the question is, okay, let me just see how it looks. Well, hello, this is me doing a test. I noticed that it is not necessarily giving me the full voice meters. And my question is that essential? It's probably not. But if I did it at least like that, you will see it. I think that's what I'm going for right there. You don't need to see anything more than that. That's the Adobe Audition situation, and I hit stop. Okay, so in this way, you will be able to see my editing process. Let me just go ahead and highlight all of that and delete it because that's not going to be a part of the episode. The thing is, though, is I do want to set up a scene where I can bring up comments without it, overtaking my entire screen. So let's go over here and let's drag and drop that comment to a different kind of size. And we will, it could pull it like this. Let me see if I can't get it. Here's a larger comment that you sent. So let me try that one that fills it in. And then he says, by the way, ecamm.com. There you go, ecamm.com. But going back to your longer one here, we're going to go ahead and that right there should be about the size of the average comment. And then the question is, where do I want that? I don't want it to overtake me. So perhaps just something like that. And then let me see, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and bring it there. And I know it's crazy, but I wonder, am I able to actually put rounded corners on there? I know there's got to be a way. Corner radius. Oh, look at that. Boom. Oh, that's beautiful. I like the corner radius. Okay. I'm totally delaying the start of my podcast episode by playing with all of this, but that's okay. And I'm doing it live here so you guys can see. I do see right about there is where I'd want that. Okay. I think that looks good. And then at any point I can hide that and bring up a new comment and then hide it and bring it up, hide it, all the good stuff. I can go back over here and show this version for when I'm going to do a side-by-side. I could always go full screen if I want to. That's sweet. I just got to remember that the camera's up here and not over here on that screen. It is what it is. I could actually move my camera over here, but I'm not going to because I like this. I worked so hard on this angle behind me. Okay. I am definitely delaying the start of this. So what we're going to do before I bring up Adobe Audition, I'm going to go ahead and pull back up my browser. And we're going to go to this layout here. And that way you can see me do my work. Now, I do want to test something out. So, by the way, here is the planning for today's live stream. This is called Watch Me Record, Edit, and Build Podcast Answer Man, episode 899. Check out this amazing thumbnail that was created by ChatGPT. Let's see here. And I said, this is not a finished podcast episode. This is a live behind the scenes look at how I create an audio only episode. Is that what I said? Yep. And create an audio only episode of Podcast Answer Man in real time. Let's see here. I'll be recording directly into Adobe Audition. I will be making edits as I go, stopping and restarting when needed, refining the flow, moving pieces around, and showing the actual process I use to build a polished audio podcast episode. The final episode will eventually be released as the normal audio version of Podcast Answer Man. This live stream is the making of experience. That's what you guys are here for right now. If you enjoy podcasting content creation live stream or simply seeing how an episode comes together behind the scenes, you're invited to hang out while I build Podcast Answer Man episode 499 live. And here are all the places where I can go through, and it's like takes me to the LinkedIn page where I'm actually broadcasting to. And there's some people out there. Hello, people. Thank you for the likes and the reactions there. And there's the YouTube, and let's see what's going on in the Facebook place. There we go. So there I am in the Facebook. All right. So definitely going to move over now to Podcast Answer Man in my Notion document, and we're going to go to Podcast Answer Man episode 499. So let me show you what I have here so far. And this is my whole outline that I have. The idea is that I'm going to talk about my new streaming video strategy. Something that I need to do, though, real quick, is I am actually going to have my Speechify read this out loud to see if that audio is also going to successfully come over the live stream.
Hashtag my new streaming and video strategy. I'm already committed to producing 2 audio-only podcasts per week. This serves those who are already subscribed. This serves the few who discover the podcast and subscribe as I continue to gain exposure to new audiences.
All right, so that works. That's Speechify that I use. I pay for an annual subscription because I hate reading texts on screens. I'm supposed to wear glasses. I see I see perfectly well when I'm looking like this on my phone, anything like this. I see 85, 90% when it's me reading on the screen. And it's not the best. Now, you may have seen me kind of struggling with some of the stuff that I was doing even earlier. So I have Speechify read all of the text to me, so I don't have to read it out loud myself. And I use Speechify when I'm using ChatGPT. Now, one of the things that you'll notice in here, I don't have a title yet for episode 499. I do, however, have a link to a thread that I've already started for ChatGPT when it comes to this. So it's already got just a little bit for the live stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my outline right here. And I'm going to talk to ChatGPT using Whisper Flow. So I'm going to hold down a little button and I'm going to dictate audio into ChatGPT, and Whisper will type it all in. So let me just start here. Okay, I am ready to start getting serious about producing episode 499. By the way, I happen to be streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and the X platform as I am interacting with you. So feel free in your responses to say hello to those who are watching live. And keep in mind, for the remainder of this thread, they're going to see and hear all of your responses because I'll be using Speechify to play your voice back at 2x speed. I hope they'll be able to catch your words at 2x speed as well as I do. But I just want to let you know that my live stream audience is watching this behind the scenes making of episode 499. So kind of keep that in mind. With that being said, I'm going to share with you the rough outline that I created for today's episode. This is like I could go off the top of my head with what I typed up this morning and just riff. However, I think there's the potential for me to think about what are some insights that I could bring to it, what are some teaching moments, what are some ways of communicating value that I might not think of beyond just documenting the fact that I have a new streaming approach, a new video content creation approach. So here's my outline below. Please tell me in your own words what I've already put together first, and then give me some ideas of what I might potentially include. All right, so I just dictated all of that, and now I'm simply going to hit paste, and it's got the outline, and I'm going to hit submit that over to ChatGPT. It is thinking about it, and it is already writing everything back, and here's what ChatGPT has to say.
Hello to everyone watching live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and 10th.
Okay, so first of all, I am definitely not going to make all of you listen to ChatGPT at 1.5. In fact, I will give you ChatGPT at at 2.0. I'll give ChatGPT to you at 1.6. I'll hit refresh so it'll start over again. And just know this, that Speechify will sometimes see certain formatted text and not read it. Like, for example, I just heard it was about ready to say something that's not there. Or like it says this is X and instead of it said 10th. So anyway, you'll get the idea.
Hello to everyone watching live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and 10th. You are now officially part of the behind-the-scenes process of building Podcast Answer Man, episode 499. Cliff, here's what you already have. You've put together the bones of an episode about a strategic shift in how you are going to create and distribute video content without abandoning what already works beautifully for you, audio-only podcasting. The foundation is this. You are already committed to producing 2 high-quality audio-only podcast episodes each week. That serves existing subscribers well, and it continues to serve new people who discover the shows and decide to subscribe. The audio podcast remains the core product. The problem is reach and visibility. There are people who used to listen to your podcasts years ago who are no longer subscribed. They may still be connected to you on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, or your email list, but they are no longer aware of the quality and relevance of what you are producing every week. Then there are people who discover you in many other places: public speaking, summit appearances, workshops, podcast guest interviews, books, stage mentions, social media, online communities, and comments. Many of these people may be interested in your work, but they may not be podcast listeners. They may follow you somewhere socially, but they are unlikely to go search for your podcast, subscribe, and make it part of their weekly rhythm. Then you have the third problem. You want to create more video and live streamed content, but you do not want to create a video version of your podcast. That distinction matters. The audio podcast workflow is efficient, enjoyable, and produces a high-quality result. You record directly into Adobe Audition. When you make a mistake, you stop, mark the location, delete the mistake, listen to the lead-in, and then record again in the same tone and cadence. Sometimes you re-record one section. Sometimes you re-record a dozen sections. Sometimes you record out of order and rearrange pieces as the episode takes shape. That workflow is part of your creative process. It gives you quality without draining the life out of you. Trying to do that same process as polished video would technically be possible, but it would create unnecessary friction. The time cost goes up. The production complexity goes up. The end result may not be meaningfully better for the people you are trying to reach. So your current solution is elegant. Live stream, the behind-the-scenes making of the audio-only podcast. You use Ecamm Live. You stream to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and 10th you share your desktop. Adobe Audition is visible. Your video window is visible. You explain up front that people are not watching the finished podcast episode. They are watching the making of the episode. That solves all three problems. It reactivates people who are still connected to you socially, but no longer subscribe to the podcast. It reaches people who know you from other environments, but may never become podcast subscribers. It lets you create video and live streaming content without turning your podcast into a video production burden. That is the core episode. Now, here are some teaching moments and insights you could add. One strong
Okay, so by the way, what she just did is she just read to us the entire outline that I gave her. So all of that was stuff that I came up with this morning, and it is over here in this. So I basically said, here's my new streaming strategy. Here are my bullet point thoughts on this. Here are the 3 problems I'm trying to solve for. And here is my current solution. That's pretty much everything that she shared. It's all in those bullet points. So let's see now what she thinks about as the teaching options.
Strong teaching frame is this. Every creator needs to distinguish between the core product and the visibility layer. For you, the core product is still the audio podcast. The visibility layer is the live streamed making of experience. That distinction could be very valuable for your audience because many creators accidentally corrupt the thing they love by forcing it to serve every possible distribution channel. You could say something like, the mistake I have made in the past is thinking that if I want more video content, I need to turn my podcast into a video show. I don't think that's true anymore. I can let the podcast remain an audio-first experience and simply create a video layer around the process. That is a very teachable idea. Another teaching moment. Documentation can become content without becoming performance. This is especially powerful because you are not...
By the way, Speechify always says content as content. Anyway, going back. Let's go back.
Not adding a whole new content pillar. Documentation can become content without becoming performance. This is especially powerful because you are not adding a whole new content pillar. You are letting people watch you do the work you were already going to do. That matters because many creators burn out when every new platform requires a new version of themselves. You could make the point that this is a form of showing your work, but with a very specific strategic purpose. It is not random transparency. It is useful transparency. People get to see your thinking, your process, your standards, your mistakes, your decisions, and your commitment to craft. Another strong idea. The behind-the-scenes stream builds trust differently than the finished episode. The finished podcast builds trust through clarity, polish, teaching, insight, and presence. The live stream builds trust through proximity. People get to see the human process. They see you pause, rethink, restart, adjust, and refine. That can create a different kind of bond. It makes the creator feel more real. It also communicates mastery because people are watching the process, not just the final result. You could say, the finished podcast lets you hear what I finally decided to say. The live stream lets you watch me decide. That line feels worth keeping. Another insight. This strategy honors the difference between subscribers, followers, and observers. A subscriber has already opted into the audio show. A follower may see you occasionally in a feed. An observer may know your name, have heard you speak once, or have seen someone mention you. Those are different levels of relationship. The audio podcast mainly serves subscribers. The live stream can serve followers and observers. It gives them a low-friction way to re-enter your world. This could become a clean little framework inside the episode. Subscribers hear the finished thought. Followers see the work in progress. Observers get a reason to become curious again. Another teaching moment. Friction determines consistency. You've already learned that your current audio workflow is simple enough that you can keep doing it. That is not a small thing. Many creators design content systems around what is theoretically impressive rather than what is repeatable. You could teach that sustainability matters more than production ambition. The question is not, what is the most impressive video version I could produce? The better question is, what is the most alive, repeatable, strategically useful version of video that I will actually continue doing? That is very much aligned with your current life and business philosophy. Another idea. Do not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards. That may be one of the deeper insights here. You care about the quality of the audio. You care about the flow. You care about how the final episode lands. If you forced yourself to create polished video versions of everything, your standards would become a burden. With this strategy, your standards remain intact because the finished product is still the audio episode, while the live stream is explicitly framed as process. That gives the viewer the right expectation. The viewer is not expecting polish, they are expecting presence. Another important point. The live stream does not have to be
I love that it says the viewer is not expecting Polish. Were you guys expecting me to speak Polish? Anyway, fun stuff. All right, let's go in here.
consumed from beginning to end. Another important point. The live stream does not have to be consumed from beginning to end to be valuable. Some people may watch 5 minutes. Some may drop in for 20. Some may catch the replay. Some may only see the notification and be reminded that you are active again. Even that reminder has value. You could say, the stream does not need to be a perfect viewing experience from start to finish. Part of the value is simply showing up in the places where people already are and letting them see that the work is happening. That is strategically important because it releases you from needing the stream itself to become a perfectly packaged show. Another idea worth including. This is a way of reactivating dormant trust. You have thousands of people who once trusted you enough to subscribe, listen, learn, follow, or pay attention. Many of them did not reject you. They simply drifted. Their apps changed. Their habits changed. Their lives changed. Podcast listening changed. Social platforms changed. This strategy gives those people a chance to bump into you again. You might say, a lot of people didn't unsubscribe from me emotionally. They just drifted out of the delivery mechanism. That is a strong insight. Another valuable teaching section. The strategy is not about chasing platforms. It is about reducing the distance between the work and the people it can serve. That is probably the most grown-up version of this episode. You are not saying, everybody needs to live stream everywhere. You are saying, I have valuable work being created every week, and too much of it is only reaching people who are already inside one specific subscription behavior. That gives the episode a more strategic feel. It keeps it from sounding like a tool update. Another possible inclusion. Your content ecosystem has layers. You could describe it this way. The audio podcast is the primary artifact. The live stream is the process layer. The social platforms are discovery and reactivation channels. The email list is the relationship bridge. The coaching and mastermind work are where deeper transformation happens. That helps people understand that this is not a random experiment. It fits inside the larger trust engine. One more strong idea. This is the 2026 version of letting people sit in the studio with you. In the old days of Podcast Answer Man, people felt close to you because you brought them into your world. This live streaming approach does that again in a current format. It lets people sit beside you while you work. That is very aligned with your brand. Possible phrase. This is not me trying to become a YouTuber. This is me opening the studio door while I do the work I was already committed to doing. That line feels very strong. Here's a possible simplified flow for the episode. Open with the live streaming experiment itself. Explain that episode 499 is being created while people are watching the creation of episode 499. Then say, this episode is about why I'm doing this. Move into the 3 problems. Former subscribers no longer hear the work. New people discover you but may never become podcast listeners. You want video visibility without turning the podcast into a video production machine. Then move into the solution. The finished product remains audio only. The behind-the-scenes process becomes the live video content. Then, teach the larger lessons. Separate the core product.
Oh my gosh, did you hear that? That is the first time I've ever heard Speechify say content. And maybe it's got because it has the word video in front of it, but that, let me tell you, I listen to this voice at 2x speed all day, every day. I've never heard the word content before.
Product from the visibility.
Let me go back.
The behind-the-scenes process becomes the live video content. Then, teach the larger lessons. Separate the core product from the visibility layer. Let documentation become content. Design for sustainability.
There it is.
Reactivate dormant trust.
Did you hear it? It went back to content. I'm going to go back. I'm sorry. It's been years. It's been years. I've never heard this.
Meet people where the behind-the-scenes process becomes the live video content. Then, teach the larger lessons. Separate the core product from the visibility layer. Let documentation become content. Design for sustainability. Reactivate dormant trust. Meet people where they already are. Protect the joy and quality of the creative process. Then close with a bigger invitation. What are you already creating that more people could benefit from seeing without forcing you to reinvent the whole thing? That closing question could be powerful for listeners because it turns your personal experiment into a useful mirror for them.
Okay, just above, you gave me all sorts of teachable moments, and in the formatting of the response, you gave some of those lines in just bold print while everything else was normal. Can you just give me a bullet point list of the bold print lines? All right, and it's going to obviously do that for me.
Hello again to everyone watching live. Here are the bold print teaching lines from the previous response. Every creator needs to distinguish between the core product and the visibility layer. Documentation can become content without becoming performance. The behind-the-scenes stream builds trust differently than the finished episode. This strategy honors the difference between subscribers, followers, and observers. Friction determines consistency. Do not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards. The live stream does not have to be consumed from beginning to end to be valuable. This is a way of reactivating dormant trust. The strategy is not about chasing platforms. It is about reducing the distance between the work and the people it can serve. Your content ecosystem has layers. This is the 2026 version of letting people sit in the studio with you.
Okay, so I'm going to hit copy. So basically, one of the things that I just will let you know is that I love interacting with ChatGPT. I refuse to use its language. So it says you could say things like this. And I'm like, yeah, I could. I'm not going to. That's okay. We're going to go in here and we're going to call this section teachable. All right, let's see here. Insights. Boom. Let's get that. Here's a bullet point. Insights. I didn't like that one. All right. Documentation can become content without becoming performance. I definitely like that. The behind the scenes stream builds trust differently than the finished episode. I like that. This strategy honors the difference between subscribers, followers, and observers. Followers, subscribers, followers, and observers. This honors the difference between podcast subscribers, social media followers, and live stream observers. I like that. Friction determines consistency. Yeah, I think I could build off of that. Do not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards. Ooh, I like that. Okay. I like that phrasing. So, by the way, I will use like a single line of statement, but I refuse to read the script or anything like that after. It's like, yep, these are all part of the insights that can come from what I've created before. Okay, so that punish you. Okay, the live streams do not have to be consumed from beginning to end to be valuable. Yep. This is a way of reactivating dormant trust. Absolutely. The strategy is not about chasing platforms. It is about it. The strategy is not about chasing platforms. It's about reduce. You know what? I don't like the it's not this, it's that. So the strategy is about reducing the distance between the work and the people it can serve. And I'm going to say the creative work. The creative work. The message. Okay, your content ecosystem has layers. I don't necessarily care about that particular bullet point. And this is the 2026 version of letting people sit in the studio with me. All right. Those are my insights that I will pull up and share in real time. I think I'm ready to go with this episode. I just thought of something. Let's go to Stream Deck, because I may want to do something interesting here. I want to do that. And I got Pam Adobe. I'm going to put Pam Adobe over here. I'll put that one over here. And then let's duplicate Pam Desk 2. So where is that? That's over here. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to take Pam Desk 2. We'll duplicate that, and we're going to call it Pam Desk 3. Enter. All right, let's add here I could just hit copy, paste, and let's change the label to 3. Let's change the scene to 3. And there's Desk 2, there's Pam Adobe, there's Desk 3, which is going to be the same as 2. So when I switch those, it's not going to do anything, which is fine because I don't want it to do anything. All right, so what I want to do, because at this time, I had it set up to where it would be me, but I'm wondering if it wouldn't make sense to have a version of this. Well, I want to see what I'm doing here, buddy. There we go. So there's me right here. I think I like that. And then we could bring this down. And that actually gives us the whole kind of spiel there. So that lets you see that. And I think this is close enough for me to read it. I don't need ChatGPT anymore, so I'll close that tab. How do I feel about the layout of that? Oh, let me hit publish so it's live. I want to see it live. Oh, back to live mode. Let me click that button. So now, okay, there we go. Now we're live. Oh, yeah. That's all the way down. I don't want all the way down. I kind of want it to be in alignment. You know what I'll do? I'll click it there, and I want it to be exactly, of course, I'm want it to be exact, but then I realize I'm still delaying the start of this podcast episode. There we go. Let's just, oh, there we go. We got that little, it was there. There it is. That's what I want right there. And, oh, yeah. Okay, so there's that. Can I, what if I go here, if I do Command-Shift-B, that gets rid of my bookmarks anyway. There is my outline. And I think we're ready to start this. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Andrew says, I need to come up with a different way of, I am on Pam Desktop 3. So a different place of putting this. So if we're going to put this here. So Andrew McGivern says he was truly hoping for Polish. So I am so sorry that you're not going to get Polish in this. If you want my Polish episode, please listen to episode 499 when it goes live at 12:01 a.m. in the Podcast Answer Man feed. That's where you find the Polish version. All right. Greg says, I'm curious as to why you use all independent solutions instead of an all-in-one platform. Are there technical quality advantages? Well, Greg, I will tell you that I want to jump into the recording of this, but the answer is that I have very high standards for how I want to interact with tools, and I will simply say this. I find the perfect tool to do the thing that I want it to do, and I need it to do it in all the places that I want it to do it. And so, for example, can I actually have ChatGPT read to me using its voice? Yes, I can. But can ChatGPT go over and do that inside of my email inbox? No. Can it go inside of Notion and read it to me there? No. So Speechify will read to me in my email inbox. It will read to me social media DM messages. It will read to me email newsletters. It will read to me ChatGPT responses. It will read to me everywhere I go. So that's why I use Speechify. But Speechify doesn't do what ChatGPT does for me. And so it is definitely there. It is because of technical / quality advantages and specific use cases. There's a very intentional reason why I choose all of the different independent tools. Great question. Now it's time for me to begin the recording of episode 499. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man. Today, I am very excited to share with you a brand new approach to my live streaming and video strategy, my video content strategy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cliff, for the last several months, ever since you brought back Podcast Answer Man, you go on and on and on about the fact that you are an audio-only advocate. And you'd be right. And I am. You are listening to an audio-only podcast. However, I also, from the very beginning, have always desired to create video content as well. I remember doing Ustream.tv, QuickCam, and eventually YouTube live streaming and Facebook live streaming. I remember playing around with all of the different cameras. Back in the day, we were recording, in 2007, we were still recording onto tape using video handheld tape recorders and converting that over. And then we were making the switch over to digital. And then I remember the Kodak. Oh my gosh, do you remember the Kodak ZI-8 camera, that little tiny thing that you held in your hand and it would record? I think it was recording in 720p or something like that. But oh man, those were the days. I've always enjoyed creating video content. I have never enjoyed creating a video podcast. I have created several. I've done more than 55 podcast overs. Hold on. Oh, there we go. So you get to see the first time when I'm going to start over. I'm not starting the whole podcast over. I'm just going to start this part over. So let's go find where I just made that mistake. I have never enjoyed creating a video podcast. I have created. I'll just do that. Where it is. I've always enjoyed creating video content. Put a marker there because that's where the first edit is. I don't think I'll ever need to come back to that edit, but just in case. Video content. Man, those... Wait a second. I need to find out. What did I just... Here's what I need to say again. I have never enjoyed... Okay, that's what I need to say. Okay. I have never enjoyed creating a video podcast. Now, over the past 20 years, have I created a podcast that is first and foremost a video podcast? Yeah, I did. Matter of fact, this is one I sometimes forget that I actually created. One of the earliest podcasts is probably right around was probably one of the first 5 podcasts I ever created, was called Facebook 101. And it was a video podcast. It was a screencast. It was me teaching people how to use Facebook, because Facebook had just become available to people who were not currently enrolled in universities. It was like new, open to the public. And so many people were talking about Facebook. And I'm like, let me show you how you can use Facebook, how you can create a profile and how you can do certain things within it so that you can interact in the ways that you would want to interact. And so I created a video podcast where every episode was a video screen recording of me showing you how to do things. I created that video content. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's a perfect use case for a video podcast. But I never really enjoyed creating that content. It took forever to create those episodes. But man, that was a very popular podcast back in the day. Then there were a couple of other times when I played around with putting video first episodes into a typically audio podcast feed. This was more along, I had a podcast years ago. It was called Pursuing a Balanced Life. And if I go over to, let's see if I can't find that podcast in here. So I will go to gspn.tv podcasts and we will go to Pursuing a Balanced Life. And that show, it had, let's see, back in the day, 639 episodes. And the things it says here, this podcast is pretty much an audio journal of my life from November 2007 through January 2016. This was a behind-the-scenes look into my life throughout the years. So I did an audio journal of my life, 639 episodes, but there was a time when I actually put episodes out that were video episodes. And it's not anything I would recommend anybody do. But creating video podcast content is not foreign to me. It's just never been anything that I truly enjoy. Now, I will share with you, there are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds. Actually, no. Let me start over. There are more than 1,000 videos of me recording audio podcasts. Stephanie and I, when we first started podcasting, created a lot of shows around entertainment. We would do the Twilight Saga podcast, which, by the way, may be coming back soon. The Twilight Saga podcast over at twilightsagapodcast.com. We did the Hunger Games fan podcast over at hungergamespodcast.com. We did all sorts of other podcasts around television shows. I had podcast with my friend, Andy Traub. We did a show called Business Tech Weekly. I did a show with my friend Chris Biting, and it was called Help, I Got a Mac. It was all about Apple products and the Apple computer. I did another show called About the Church, and it was with my friend DG Hollums, and we would talk about ministry-related stuff. And I also did my Pursuing a Balanced Life podcast. I did my Podcast Answer Man podcast, and my wife, Stephanie, with one of her friends, did a show called The Full-Time Mom. And eventually, they rebranded that to, they started a separate show called Authentic Life Radio. But the idea that I want to share with you is there used to be a day where we would do what was called Live Show Thursdays. You could actually go to gspn.tv/live. And if you showed up anywhere between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., you could actually see a camera, like a bird's eye view of a camera shot of us recording shows in the studio. And those were all in person, with the exception of Business Tech Weekly with Andy Traub and Social Media Serenity with Eric Fisher. Now, when they came in via Skype, and I basically just showed an overview of me talking to them. You could see me in the studio, but you could just see their avatar up on the screen. But anyway, I used to, and it wasn't like we would actually create a video for each show that we recorded there. No, this was a behind the scenes, a peek into the studio. Just, if you want to come in, and there was a live chat room, and oftentimes we would engage with and interact with people who were in the chat room. We even took live call-ins. We had a telephone number, and we're talking about real landline telephone. We had a digital hybrid that we brought in. I mean, it was crazy stuff. So I'm not opposed to creating video content. I think video content is amazing. But when it comes to podcast content, I lean so strongly, I lean so heavily on audio only, meaning that I think about creating this for the person who will consume and listen to my voice later. That is what I think about as the most amazing content when it comes to podcasting. Now, when it comes to video, I think there are a lot of different options to be considered. One that is not a favorite of mine is to have a whole studio set up and do a super highly produced, super published version of a podcast of people talking to one another, a bunch of talking heads, and creating a video version of that. Now, tools are easier today. Workflows are easier today. But the way that I create my show, directly streamed right into Adobe Audition, and when I make a mistake, going back and fixing it and re-recording a section as I go along, that workflow isn't necessarily as easy for me to do in video as audio is. I could probably make an argument that I could actually start doing that, and after about 10 or 15 episodes, it'd probably be just as easy and all these other things. But the other thing is that I want to live stream as well. So let me just share with you that I have, since I brought back Podcast Answer Man, I made the decision that there would be no camera involved in the recording of my weekly shows, the Cliff Ravenscraft Show and Podcast Answer Man. However, I went to Social Media Marketing World about 3.5 weeks ago. And at the speaker party, I'm sitting there hanging out with Roberto Blake and Sean Cannell. Now, if you happen to be somebody who understands the YouTube space, you may just recognize their names. Think Media and then Roberto Blake. I mean, these two guys are they are experts in the industry of getting visibility with YouTube content. They are at the top of the game. And I'm sitting there, the three of us chatting, and they're like, Cliff, he's like, so tell me what's going on in your world. And I shared with them what's going on in my world. And so what's it like bringing back Podcast Answer Man after being away for 8.5 years? And I said, it's been wonderful. There's all sorts of great benefits that have come as a result of it, opened more invitations to stages and stuff like that. That's why I'm back on the stage here at Social Media Marketing World and all those other things. And they asked, why did you bring back Podcast Answer Man? I said, well, you guys might be interested in one of the reasons. One of the reasons I brought back Podcast Answer Man is because I saw a growing number of people who were giving up on podcasting because they had bought into a narrative that you are not credible as a podcaster, or you won't be taken seriously as a podcaster moving forward if you don't have a video version of your show available on YouTube and Spotify, and now HLS video on Apple, on the Apple platform. And it looks like Spotify is even going to adopt the HLS standard from Spotify or from Apple. So I said, there are so many people who bought into the idea that I need to get lighting, I need to get multi-camera angles, I need to hire some video editors to edit this because I don't know how to do it. I don't want to learn how to do it. I would just hire a team to do it. And the expense just went through the roof, and it's just like they were buckling and not seeing any real tangible, measurable results of actually having gone through all of the time, effort, energy, and expense of doing it. And they were quitting podcasts. And I'm like, what are you doing? You just go back to audio. You don't have to quit. So anyway, I was sharing that with them, and I was like, man, that's a powerful message. And I said, so one of the things that I've chosen to do is I've made it a point, even though, I've got years of live streaming and showing people and all this stuff, and I've done several episodes where I'm recording an audio podcast, but I'm also a talking head looking directly into the camera and all the other stuff and things like that. Because I want to be an advocate for those who don't feel like they can actually be seen credible unless they do video, I chose to do audio only for my shows. And as a result of that, I chose to not include a thing. And we're having this dialogue back and forth, and they're asking me some pretty powerful questions. They're sharing some insights, and through what I'll share with you is they convinced me that there is value in creating video content on a consistent basis. Like, Cliff, so maybe you don't do your podcasts. It's very clear there's a reason why you prefer to create the audio podcast for the audio audience, and you're not performing for the camera and all that other stuff. I get all of that. But why did you stop creating YouTube content? I said, well, it's a constraint of time factor and stuff like this. I'm currently committed to 2 shows every single week in audio. And I said, just right now, I'm in a season where there isn't really enough time for me to produce consistently content for my YouTube channel and or any of the other short platforms and long form platforms. I said, however, I got a question for you. I used to do these live stream of the behind the scenes, peek into the studio thing. I got a question for you. Let me pass this by you. What do you think about the idea if I were to turn on Ecamm Live? And I just want you to imagine this. At the top of the screen, you see my Adobe Audition software. And as I'm speaking into the recording, you can see the little scrubber going all the way across. And if I make a mistake, I'll stop and I will go in and delete the part where I messed up. I'll replay where I left off, and I'll hit the record button I'll move it to the scrubber to the end of the already recorded audio. I'll hit the record button and pick up where I originally messed up with the new version of what I meant to say, the way that I meant to say it. And so there would be just like a thumbnail image of me. And maybe if I happen to have an outline, I might actually have the outline to the side of me. So imagine this. That's what's on the screen. You click play. And then I say, well, hello and welcome to another live stream here. I want to share with you what I'm doing today. This is a behind the scenes recording of an audio only podcast. And I explained the whole thing of what I would do. And I said, do you think that would be compelling content? Because it's not polished, but at this point, I'm actually intentionally trying to not do polished content. Everybody's trying to be so perfect. They're trying to impress people and perform and to have such high production standards that most people are just getting burned out on overly produced, polished content that sounds like everybody else out there. This is my idea of what I think I would do. Do you think that would have any legs? And they're both like, Cliff, you've got to do that. Like, seriously, next week, start that. I said, well, I can't the next 2 weeks. I had lots of travel, but I said, I'll tell you, I am definitely going to do this, and I'll text you when I do. Well, last week, I started. And this is my second live stream, and it is the third time that I've actually produced video of me doing this behind the scenes approach. So that is a lot to really set all of this up. But what I want to share with you, I'm going to go to my outline here. I'm already committed to producing 2 audio-only podcasts every single week. And the key is that these audio podcasts will serve those who are already subscribed to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show and to Podcast Answer Man, which is great. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people subscribed to each of those 2 shows. However, if you were to go back before COVID, before TikTok, before shorts and reels and all of the other stuff that's been happening and all the algorithms that are hijacking people's dopamine, if you go back before there was all of this other content online, and also if you were to go back before I stopped producing consistently, there used to be a day when I had thousands of people who were subscribed to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And when it came to by the way, I stopped producing Podcast Answer Man like 8.5 years ago. I just brought it back 6 months ago. So as a result of that, before I had Podcast Answer, there was like 15,000 downloads an episode. So things have shifted. Things have changed a lot since then. But I will say this, I'm not going, let's just say it's 500, 700 downloads an episode. I have spoke on a stage with that many people in the audience, and I'm thrilled to create the 2 episodes I do every week for that number of people. That is amazing. However, here's what I know. The thousands of people who used to consume the content before I either stopped Podcast Answer Man 8.5 years ago, and before I kind of just said, you know what, I'm going to stop creating the Cliff Ravenscraft Show every single week. Now that I'm using the Prosperous Coach method, I really want to go all in over here. I've got a bunch of other things. I was going all in on my YouTube channel. I was like vlogging almost every day and all this other stuff. And I said, I'm going to just create content for the Cliff Ravenscraft Show whenever I feel inspired. There'll probably be at least 1 episode every single month. And there was about an average of 1 to 2 episodes a month, every month for the next several years. But because I used to be weekly every single week, a lot of those people eventually unsubscribed, which is perfectly fine, except for the fact that now when I'm back, consistently showing up every single week for 2 different shows, those people aren't hearing that content. They're not consuming that content. They're not even aware that content exists. So here is what I will share are the 3 problems that I was facing. First, there are thousands of people who used to be subscribed who unsubscribed, and these people are still out there following me. Many of them are connections on LinkedIn. They're friends and or followers on Facebook. They're subscribers to YouTube channel. There's 14,000 or however, I don't know. There's a bunch of people on the former Twitter app now called X. There's a couple thousand people on my email newsletter. So many of those people, I have access to them, but not with an audio-only podcast. That's problem number 1. I'm creating high-value, consistent content on a weekly basis for 2 different shows, and there are thousands of people who know who I am, who care about who I am, who know, like, and trust me, who are just not even aware that the content I've been creating for the last 6 months every single week exists. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, there are thousands of people who have discovered me through my public speaking, where I've been a guest as a speaker or a teacher in online summits, workshops, masterclasses, where I've been a guest on other people's podcasts, where some of my peers have written about me and the influence I've had in their lives in my mastermind groups, the influence my mastermind group experiences have had in their lives. They're talking about me in their New York Times best-selling books, and people hear about me. They are finding me because I've been mentioned by somebody in social media. They are hearing other speakers speak about me on stage and say, you've got to follow my friend Cliff Ravenscraft. He can help you with this, and he helped me with this and this. And they're using me as an example. And then people are like looking me up and they're following me on all these other platforms. So I'm being mentioned in a number of environments. And sometimes it's because I'm showing up in comments and I go through the feed and I'm commenting on things, and these people are following me. I'm participating in online groups, people's school communities, Facebook groups, and I'm adding value there. But I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you should check out my audio podcast. Instead, it's a real quick, let's follow Cliff. And so those follows are happening they're happening on their favorite. You know what? I can actually give you an example of starting another spot here. So let me go here. And so those follows are happening up. And so those follows. And so those follows are happening on their social media channel of choice. They're connected with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, any of these other number of places. And they're not aware that I have an audio podcast unless I share that I have an audio podcast. And let me just say this. I have been around long enough to know that if I were to just post a LinkedIn post, or if I was to put a Facebook message out, or an Instagram post, or a reel, or a short, or an email newsletter, and announce that I just published a new episode of my podcast, it does not have really any true impact. Now, I'm not going to undervalue the 2 or 3 people who may check out and click through to link to that. But what I'm saying is that a majority of the people who would see that in their social media feed, they're scrolling LinkedIn and they see it's like, oh, Cliff mentioned he just put out a podcast episode that's 60 minutes long on this topic. Yep, scroll on through. And that's it, right? So this is a problem. Okay, now let's see here. That was problem number 2. Problem number 3. I actually do desire to create more video content. I have zero desire to create a video podcast, but I do want to create more video content. I have always loved doing live streams. I actually enjoy recording direct to camera and upload later vlog content. I enjoy teaching things. I love all sorts of stuff, but I really love live streaming. And so I want to create more content, but I don't necessarily have any more time in my schedule if I want to remain consistent to the audio only podcasts that I'm already producing, and I'm already producing them. So what I decided is, I'm already creating these 2 shows every single week. What if I do what I told Roberto and Sean? And I'm like, yeah, I think this is amazing. Now, if I record into Adobe Audition, people get to see the behind the scenes look into how an episode, a polished audio episode, comes into being. Now, I have the ability to record live to drive, hit record, speak for an hour, and then hit stop and hit done, and there are no edits necessary. Now, while I have that ability, and if I decide ahead of time, right there, by the way, I'm going to choose to leave that in. I could stop and edit that part out. I have the ability to record from beginning to end without making any mistakes, or at least needing to go and edit, especially if at the beginning I say, this is going to be live to drive. I've got an hour and 15 minutes to produce an hour-long podcast episode. So any mistakes I make, they're going to be put in, they're going to become a part of the show. And so I have the ability to do that. I have the ability to communicate after more than 5,500 episodes. I don't fill every bit of silence with ums and ahs that need to be edited out. So I have this ability to communicate, but I do also have the ability to do some work on it. I can actually re-record sections. I could record problem number 3 of my podcast before I decide to record problem number 1 and problem number 2, and I can just copy and paste those and put them in the right chronological order. I could build my podcast episode in Adobe Audition like Legos and just put them where they need to go. I love the freedom and flexibility to do what I'm doing in my audio-only production. But I also love the fact that I can turn on the live stream and explain that this is not episode 499 of Podcast Answer Man. This is the making of episode 499 of Podcast Answer Man, an audio-only podcast. And the cool thing is that whenever I make a mistake, I can start narrating and talking to people who are watching on the live stream. And there are people who do watch on the live stream. And so this is the great thing. The solution here is that people who have been following me on social media over all of these years, when I am streaming live, these are people who may have at one time listened to my podcast, but for whatever reason, they're no longer subscribed to the podcast today. These are the people who may have met me because I spoke on a stage, somebody mentioned me or whatever the case may be, and they started following me on social media. These people are always logging into their social media platforms of choice. And if I happen to be live as they're doing that, when they come across my live stream and they say Cliff Ravenscraft is live, and it says, join me as I'm doing a behind-the-scenes recording of episode 499 of Podcast Answer Man, and they kind of see that I'm live, they can click through and start watching. Now, remember, I told you if I showed up in their feed and it was like, hey, I just published the episode 499 and it talked about this topic, blah, blah, blah. Most people, 99% of the people would continue to scroll on. But if I'm live, they'll click play and they'll catch me. Maybe I've been live maybe they caught me right when I go live. And maybe they saw that I scheduled a couple hours before I chose to go live today at 3:30. And they said, I'm going to be there at 3:30. Or maybe they just came in and said, you know what? Let's see what Cliff's got going on. Oh, wow, he's been doing this. And maybe I've been going for 15, 20 minutes. Maybe I've been going for 47 minutes. But if anything that I'm doing or saying is interesting to them, they're like, maybe I'll come back and watch this later. They make a note. They add it to their playlist to watch later or whatever. Or maybe they just remember that I exist. It's like, that guy, Cliff Ravenscraft, he's still creating content these days. That's pretty cool. So, or somebody who maybe just heard about me as a mention. It's like, so this is Cliff Ravenscraft. So this is what he does. And this is how he creates a podcast. That's interesting. By the way, I have been doing this in the way that I'm doing it right now. And the way that I'm doing it right now is far more compelling as content than just watching me as a camera on the wall, kind of bird's eye view of me recording in the studio. It's definitely more compelling than me just sitting here and I'm going to just saying, you know what, here's me talking into the camera. I'm now looking straight into the camera and it's just me in the studio, just a talking head the entire time. If I take away the shared screen showing the Adobe Audition in the background and the outline and the little window of me down there, to me, this is not as compelling as content. You might as well just go ahead and close your YouTube app and hit play and listen to the audio because there's really nothing going on here. But when I switch over to the screen and you see all of you see the layout and you get to see the sausage being made, you get to see the behind the scenes, you get to see just how much of the script I've completely skipped through this entire process. It's like, Cliff had his script up there. He definitely was winging that. But you get to see how it's made. And it's compelling content. And I'm like, this is amazing. So essentially, what I'm doing solves all three of the problems that I experienced. Now, before I hit record on this audio episode of episode 499 of Podcast Answer Man. By the way, I didn't like that transition. So I'm going to hit stop. And let's see here. We'll go. Now, before completely. So essentially, what I'm doing. Let me take out that word so. It's compelling content. And I'm like, this is amazing. Essentially, okay, let me get that and go. It's compelling content. And I'm like, this is amazing. Essentially, what I'm doing solves all three of the problems that I experienced. Okay. Now, before I went live on the recording of that was still wrong. Clear. Go back here. I forgot to mark it. Let's go here. Solves all three of the problems that I experienced. Let's see here. Now, before I hit record to start the audio production of this episode, I had already been live. And I shared with folks that I already created a rough outline of this. And then I showed them the live stream viewing audience or those who watched the replay later. Because that's another benefit. Maybe some people don't catch me when I'm live. Maybe they're not checking their social media feed of choice when I'm live. But they will see the thumbnail and it's a clickable play button that they can see from the very beginning and it captures their attention. That is a possibility as well. But before I did all of this, I shared the outline that I had, and I showed my process of going over to ChatGPT, say, here's my outline for this episode. I want some teachable moments. Rather than just sharing what I'm doing, what are some of the insights? What are the teachable insights that can be pulled from this content? And it gave me all sorts of insights that are valuable that you might want to take away from me sharing all of this story with you. And it's, of course, gave me entire scripts of things that I could say and how I could frame it and all this other stuff. And of course, I do not like to be directed on what to say by ChatGPT. I like it as a thinking partner. But I did ask it to give me the bullet point items. And I think, do I have the ability to, how do you, oh, don't allow. How do you do zoom in? Actually, you know what? I'll be able to read it. I'm just having a hard time reading my notes here because I don't have my glasses on. Let's do this. So here are some insights for you. Documentation can become content without becoming performance. This, for me, is a way that I'm creating content. I'm creating compelling, not just talking head content. I'm creating compelling video content. There is a purpose. There is a value to having video as I'm streaming live because these people get to experience the behind the scenes look of how this is made. When I make a mistake and I stop, I sometimes will narrate to the live stream audience. This is what I'm doing. This is where I messed up. Here's what I'm going to say next. Let me start that over. They get to see the sausage being made. And at the same time, I'm not performing for the camera. I'm not looking at the comments, waiting to see what's going on there. Now, if there are comments that come in when I do make a mistake or whatever, and by the way, I'm going to leave that in as well. I'm not going to edit that one out. But when I do make a mistake, I can hit stop and I could address a comment that's just come in for the live stream, but it won't make it into the audio production because I had stopped to do a correction. And I can engage with people. This is compelling content, but what I love about it is I'm not performing perfection for the camera. I'm not trying to do a polished production for video for my YouTube channel or for my live streams. It's the raw, real, authentic Cliff Ravenscraft. Mistakes and everything. Here's how this thing comes together. And there's the compelling educational experience of how Cliff produces his podcasts. This is awesome. So it's not necessarily that you need to go and do your own behind the scenes documentation, but I can tell you that not just sharing the information that you know, but actually letting people see how you work is content, and it's valuable. All right, the next one is the behind the scenes stream builds trust. Okay, hold on. Builds trust, not trust. The behind the scenes, and it's valuable. All right. The next one is, all right. The next one is the behind the scenes streaming builds trust differently than the finished episode. One of the things I love about this is that people get to see the raw, super messed up, crazy, all over the place. This is what it really looks like behind the scenes. But then if they want to, they could go and subscribe to the Podcast Answer Man podcast. And at Friday at 12:01 a.m., they could actually they could actually listen to the polished episode. They could hear how the finished product sounded. I like that. This strategy also honors the difference between Stop. Where's the stop button? It's already stopped. I like that. We'll start there. Whew. Oh, wow. There are some comments in here. I didn't see all these comments. Let's see here. I got Greg said, good to know. Greg says, thanks, Cliff. I'll pick up the replay. There we go. Awesome. Andrew McGivern says, Business Tech Weekly was great. Well, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. And then Jim Burgoon is here. He says, I am learning a lot with these. Awesome, Jim. Glad to have you here. And I think you and are we scheduled tomorrow? I think we have a session tomorrow. Super excited to reconnect with you. All right, let's see here. They could actually listen to the polished episode. They could hear how the finished product sounded. I like that. Let's get rid of that. Episode. They could hear how the finished product sounded. Another insight is that this strategy that I'm using honors the difference between a podcast subscriber, a social media follower, and also live stream observers. It kind of reaches people where they are. And this is something when I think about somebody who is creating an audio podcast, but they felt like they need to create a video version of their show. And one of the reasons they need a video version of their show is so that they can have all of these clips that they can put on shorts on Instagram, and they can put it on shorts on YouTube, and Reels on Instagram, and TikTok videos, so that they can actually put some sort of compelling, check out this short little clip, and if you want the full thing, come check out my podcast. And my feeling is like, okay, there maybe somebody's getting results from that, and that there may be some value to it, but there's a whole lot more value when you are creating content that is meant to be consumed on the platform that people have chosen for which they are actually scrolling. So for example, if I wanted to create content on TikTok, I want to make sure that people don't have to leave TikTok to truly experience the fullness of the value that I'm trying to give them at this moment in this way. I don't like the idea of, hey, now that I've got your attention on your platform of choice, can I send you over to my platform of choice and ask you to listen to the full thing I've got to share with you? I don't like that. So when I show up on Facebook, when I show up on LinkedIn, when I show up on the X platform, and when I show up on YouTube, these people are scrolling and they saw me there, and they can consume this entire thing from beginning to end in the platform for which they don't need to go subscribe to my audio podcast. It's not essential that I put a call to action that they do it. Guess what? Those who know what a podcast is, those who know what the value of a podcast is, those who maybe used to subscribe to my podcast years ago when I showed up every single week, but then I didn't for a while, and then they unsubscribed to hear and see that I'm back. When they see that I'm creating this content and they know that this content is there, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to go resubscribe. I don't have to ask. It just happens. And those people who had never subscribed to my podcast, but they heard about me because somebody else mentioned me and they're following me on social media as a result of that, if they are podcast consumers and they see a live stream video or a replay of a live stream video of the behind the scenes making of an audio podcast, guess what? If they are podcast consumers, they will go seek out my show. I don't even have to ask. This is brilliant. I am there giving you the full value of my message in all of the different platforms. You could stay right here, wherever you are hearing my voice right now. You don't have to go anywhere else for you and I to have this relationship. That's awesome. The next insight is that friction determines consistency. And there's a reason why people, when they have created so many episodes of their podcast, I've talked to so many people who have created hundreds of podcast episodes over years, and then switched over to video, and then stopped because of all of the friction that was there on the video production side of things. What I'm doing, allows me to create video. Now, I'm an incredibly technical person. I've been playing around with video since 2006, 2007. And for me to open up Ecamm Live and just start navigating and talking about what I'm doing, and then just sitting here in the studio, I'm not even looking at the camera 94% of the time. I'm not paying attention to anything other than this microphone, doing what I would be doing even if the camera would. But it's compelling content. It's like this. There's no friction here for me to do this. But if setting up a live stream piece of software and trying to pull off what I'm doing here, if that adds friction, it's going to determine your consistency. And I will tell you right now, consistency is more important than showing up on video. Consistently producing value. You know, you don't have to have this video and or live streaming content strategy for you to reach those people. You could actually, and I want to speak to those of you who do not want to do what I'm doing. You could take the transcript of your polished podcast episode, the audio podcast. You could run it through your large language model of choice and say, listen, take this transcript and I want you to create a compelling, narrative, powerful email newsletter that could be read in no more than 5 minutes. I want it to contain the essence of the message contained in this hour-long podcast episode. I want it to also contain all of the key insights and all of the value that anybody who listens to the podcast episode will get. I want all of that to be included in the written email newsletter without them ever having to listen to the podcast episode itself. I want you to assume and presume that nobody reading this email newsletter will ever listen to the episode, but they should get just the same of warm, fuzzy, like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear this today. I'm so glad this email came in. I need them to have that experience when they read the email. And then at the very end, only put that this email newsletter is a summary of what I shared in my most recent audio-only podcast, episode such and such of such and such podcast. If and only if you're interested in hearing the full episode, click here. But that's just like it's at the end. And you know what? You could just send that out as your email newsletter update. You could put that on your LinkedIn newsletter. You could put that as a Facebook post. You could take that, create an image on Instagram, and post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach those people without live streams. You can reach it without showing up this way. So, don't have to do what I'm doing, but still, I want to just tell you, you remove the strategy. Where was I? What? Okay, stop. Okay, where was I at? Don't have to do what I'm doing, but still, I want to just tell you, you remove that's the way, okay. Description for the photo. You can reach those people without live streams. You can reach it without showing up this way. Okay, that's all I need. Whew, let's take a drink. I was just looking here. This episode's already 43 minutes long. 43 and a half minutes long. The live stream is an hour and 32 minutes long. Good stuff. All right. Let's see what we got in the comments here. We got Jim Burgoon says 100% down for doing this. Awesome. I love it. Jim says, laughing out loud makes me so happy and encouraging to see that I am not the only one who messes up and laughs at himself. Awesome. You are definitely not the only one, my friend. All right. I still need another drink. This is fun, man. It's been far too long since I've done live stream. Well, okay, I did two of these things anyway. I'm glad to be live streaming in. Is what I'm trying to say. I can't believe I'm working past 5 o'clock. Whoo! Let's see what it's in my thing here. I seriously, what is it Shift Plus? No, it's not Shift Plus. Is it Command Plus? There we go. Guess who can see the outline now? I I should have done. It's Command plus, Command plus, Command plus. Wow. Okay. Command plus. Where was I at? Friction determines consistency. Do not build content strategy that punishes you for having standards. Okay, let's see how I can transition into that. Go back here. But that's just like it's at the end. And you know what? You could just send that out as your email newsletter update. You could put that on your LinkedIn newsletter. You could put that as a Facebook post. You could take that, create an image on Instagram, and post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach those people without live streams. You can reach it without showing up Instagram and post that as your post. Okay, let me. Oh, I got a marker there. I see the marker. Okay, good. An image on Instagram and post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach those people without live streams. You don't even need video. You could simply reach them with the written. Blah, 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 blah. Dun, 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 dun. Your post description for the photo. You can reach those people. All right, let's do it this way. You can reach those people without doing video and without doing live streams, simply using the written word. So friction determines consistency. Remove the friction. And if video is friction for you, don't do it. The other insight that ChatGPT gave me, it says this. It said, do not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards. You see, I do have standards. I want what I do to be valuable. I want it to be worthy of the platform for which the content I am publishing. Hold on. I'm losing my train of thought. So I want the content to be worthy of the platform for where it's being published. Did I say that right? You know what I'm saying. If I'm publishing this in video form, I want it to be worthy of being consumed in video. That's the way that I would say it. I have high standards. I want it to be valuable. And I don't think a talking head of me on video for an hour is incredibly valuable. Showing up is valuable, but my production value is much higher. It's like, gosh, I want something more in the background. And I already have equipment. I already have a studio with lighting. I used to have about $20,000 worth of equipment in the Next Level studio. And I've really overly simplified things today. I've made it so much more simple. But today, even though I have high standards, the highest standard I have is for the audio podcast production. I want this thing to sound cohesive from beginning to end. And if I tried to create the content for the audio listener while trying to perform for a camera and keep the energy up and trying to make it compelling, make sure I've got the smile on my face and all the, it's like all the stuff. It's just like, it changes how I show up for you, the listener to this audio only podcast. And so my standards are so high. And for me to want to create video as a video podcast, I'd be punishing myself to do that. I like that little insight. Anyway, the live stream does not have to be consumed from beginning to end to be valuable. In fact, I will tell you right now, there are a number of people who have been in and out as I've been doing this live stream. So as I'm looking at Adobe Audition right now, I am at 46 minutes and 6 seconds. But I've been live streaming for 1 hour and 38 minutes. There have been plenty of people who have come and gone throughout here. But you know what? 100% of everyone who watched, even for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and those who have been watching ever since they first came across it, and some of them for the entire 1 hour and 38 minutes and 42 seconds now. You know what all of them have in common? They didn't wake up this morning thinking about Cliff Ravenscraft, and now They're aware that Cliff Ravenscraft is still out there in the world creating content. They're aware that he's actually got a new content strategy that he's doing. They're aware that his podcast is an audio-only podcast that he's producing. They're aware that he's showing up, adding value to people's lives. They're aware that he's engaging with people. They're aware that he still has that heart of service. Every single one of the people who have stopped by the stream, even if it's only 15 seconds, I'm top of mind. That is something that without this strategy and how I'm doing it, I just wouldn't have that. Now, again, I could do that strategy with the emails, and I do that. I will admit not as consistently as I could, and I'm proud of myself for not saying should. But anyway, you get the idea. This right here, this is my thing. This is my jam. I'm in my sweet spot. I am loving this. And I think it shows. And this is why I'm excited. It's like, man, I'm now going to have content on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and the X platform twice a week, every week, minimum. Now, the thing is there may be times when I'm out of town and I just do the audio only in another way. Or maybe I batch it ahead of time and maybe I'll be more incentivized to do it as I'm doing it live. But anyway, I am enjoying this. I love it. Okay. And the insight there, though, is that the live stream does not have to be consumed from the beginning to end to be valuable. The next one is that this is a way of reactivating dormant trust. This is the key for me as somebody who used to create consistent weekly content, and people used to follow that content all of the time, especially the 15,000 plus subscribers of Podcast Answer Man before I shut down Podcast Answer Man 8.5 years ago. Most of those people are not yet aware that I've brought Podcast Answer Man back 6 months ago. More and more people on a weekly basis now are going to be aware that that show is back. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people get really excited when they see it's back. And I love that. And the reconnections have been amazing. So I am reactivating dormant trust with this strategy. The next one is, it says here, the strategy is about reducing the distance between the creative work or the message that I'm putting into the world and the people that it can serve. Did I say the people that it can serve? And the people that it can serve. And the people that it can serve. That's exactly what I said. Or the message that I'm putting into the world. Or the message that I'm putting into the world will help work, creative work, or the message that I'm putting into the world. And I forgot the next line. That's hilarious. Strategy is about reducing the distance between the creative work. So I am reactivating dormant trust with this strategy. The next one is, it says, and the next insight is that this strategy is really about reducing the distance between my creative work, the message that I work so hard to put into these audio podcasts. It is reducing the distance between this content and the people it can serve. And so now people can consume this message without going and subscribing to the audio podcast. And then finally, this is my 2026 version of letting people sit into boom, stop. And then finally, this is my 2026 version of letting people sit in the studio with me. And I love the technology we have to do multi-streaming to multiple social media platforms. I love the Ecamm Live, makes it so easy for me to share different views of my software on screen. I love the fact that when I make a mistake and pause, I can engage with the folks who are leaving comments. This is such It is so amazing. And I'm thrilled that I am back to creating live stream behind the scenes, making of content. If you are interested in checking out some of my behind the scenes making, if you would like to see the behind the scenes making of this episode, check the link in the bio. I'll put a direct link to the replay on my YouTube channel. And you could see what this was like. Because you're getting like a 50 some odd minute episode. You will see the full 1 hour and 44 minute plus making of this episode. And if you're interested in that, link in the bio. By the way, real quickly, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a content creator, if you are a thought leader, and you are looking to gain more visibility in the world, if you are creating change in the lives of the people that you serve, but you don't necessarily have people in your life who you can bounce ideas off of, if you don't have somebody who can help you see the blind spots, the things that you are not currently seeing that are available as your next clear, aligned actions that you could take. If you don't have anybody who could ask you questions about your commitments of when you're getting things done, if you don't have somebody who can just not necessarily hold you accountable as like you said you were going to do that, but actually just ask you, when are you going to do that? And then there's a next appointment with that person. If you don't have that, if you don't have there's a next mastermind meeting where you're going to check in and give an update on how things went related to that commitment you made. If you don't have that in your life, I'd like to invite you to experience that environment with me. There are 2 ways that I do this: one-on-one coaching or through my next level mastermind environments. If you are resonating with the type of content that I'm creating in the world, if you are looking to have a profound, positive impact in the lives of the people that you serve, and you'd like to surround yourself with other people who think like you, reach out to me. My email address is cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do to the next level.
Podcast Answer Man.
All right, there we go. So now that entire episode is produced. I'm actually going to save it. Hit save. Let's see here. Let's see. Jim says, laughing out loud, I was thinking about Cliff. I thought our appointment was today, but it's tomorrow. I love that. And then Jim says, I 100% recommend anyone and everyone to take Cliff up on the offer. It is so worth it. Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. All righty. Let's see here. So that has been saved. Now I need to I don't think I need to trim anything at the end. Okay, so that's perfect ending. Let's see if I need to do a trim at the beginning. If I hit here and hit play. Well, hello. Yeah, that's good. All right, now what I want to do is I want to go to the markers and see if you can tell. Well, let's just see how bad you can tell if I've made it. So what I'm looking for here is I'm actually going to play it just through here where this marker is to see if it sounds natural. And then I remember the Kodak. Oh my gosh, do you remember the Kodak ZI-8 camera, that little tiny thing that you held in your hand and it would record? I think it was recording in 720p or something like that. But oh man, those were the days. I've always enjoyed creating video content. I have never enjoyed creating a video podcast. Now, yeah, that's fine. All right, so we're going to move to the next marker. It's right here. But I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you should check out my audio podcast. Instead, it's a real quick, let's follow Cliff. And so those follows are happening on their social. That is good enough. All right. And let's see here. There's this one. Let's see here. Andrew McGivern, by the way, says, I had one of those Kodak cameras. Those were amazing. Let's see here. Here we go. What I'm doing solves all 3 of the problems that I experienced. Now, before I hit record, yeah, that one's good. And let's try this one. People see how you work is content, and it's valuable. All right, the next one is, yeah, that's perfect. Hear how the finished product sounded. Another insight is that, yeah, that one's good. And post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach those people without doing video and without doing... let's go back and see what the context is and see if that needs to be any work done there. And you know what? You could just send that out as your email newsletter update. You could put that on your LinkedIn newsletter. You could put that as a Facebook post. You could take that, create an image on Instagram, and post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach those people. Photo. Okay, that right there, I'm gonna cycle this and see if you hear it. Yeah, definitely don't want that in there. So I'm just gonna delete that. And now if I go back, image on Instagram and post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach... Okay, there's too much of a pause. Image on Instagram and post that as your post description for the photo. You can reach those people without... That's perfect. The only thing is I want to put the marker back in there just so I can remember that it was there. And that's the end. All right, so now that I've checked to make sure that there's only one that's iffish, but it's good enough. So I am actually hitting save. So we're going to save the entire episode again. All right, and now I'm going to go in here and do file. Oh, actually, no, I need to do my multi-channel. Now, if you have, I don't need to. I want to do my multi-band processing, my secret sauce. And this is going to make it more bassy, louder, all of that stuff. So I'm doing, it's called my multi-band compressor, the hard limiter, and it's got my secret sauce here, all the good stuff. By the way, if you guys are out there, Jim and Andrew are watching on Facebook. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can type in a comment. I will be engaging. I'm finished recording the episode. I'm going to be here a bit to produce it. But if you type in questions or comments, I will engage with you until I'm finished with this episode. But this is what the audio sounds like now. Everybody else out there, this is my idea of what I think I would do. Yeah, that's good. So we'll hit save now that that's been processed. If you are on LinkedIn, by the way, I will not see your comments until later. They do not come through. And I think if you're watching on the X platform also, it does not come through. But it does look to me like at Cliff EOTC. So there are 9 of you who are watching on the X platform. So that may explain why more people are not commenting. But I do see, it looks like Andrew and Jim are the 2 who are on Facebook. There's nobody on YouTube right now watching. But there are 9 of you on the X platform. If you were to follow me, or if you were to check out YouTube, you could come over and interact. And it's youtube.com/Cliff Ravenscraft. Jim Burgoon says, I just subscribed to your YouTube. Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. All right. So this podcast episode has now been saved. So I'm going to close that. And now I'm going to bring this up here like this. I'm going to leave my window right where it's at. Now, that... I need my bookmarks back. Okay, I need ChatGPT. Actually, I don't need that. I want to go here. Let's bring this back to... Okay, how do I get this back to 0? Do I get... 0 brings it back. Okay, great. I need to go to ChatGPT. This is my thread for this particular episode. Oh, I need to... Wait a second. Okay, I need to open it back up. Bear with me. So we're going to do it... let's see. Oh, because of that, I can go here. We are going to open this back up in Adobe Audition because I didn't save it as an MP3 file. So there's the file. And now we're going to do File, Save As, MP3. 128 kilobits per second. And it's being saved out as an MP3 file. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to open the X platform. and see if anybody has @messaged me. I wonder, I don't use Twitter very much. Let's see if I'm live. It does show that I'm live. I'm right here. Okay, so I am live, and okay. So if I go, let's go to that and see if there are chats on there. So I'll go back to profile. I will go back to this video. Okay, so I am live, and how do you turn? Can you mute this? Okay, so if I go, okay, there it's muted. And comments. There's there's live chats. So maybe later. So live chats. Oh, I can actually testing. So I am going to do a test and see. So I just put a test in the chat, and I want to see if that comes through on here. I don't think it does. Doesn't matter. Okay, my MP3 file has saved now. So let's close Adobe Audition. And let's go back to this layout, and we will go back to this folder. I'm going to open up my file here. We go into Archives and Waves. So I take these. This goes into my Dropbox folder where it's just got all my original recordings. I want to go to Podcast Answer Man right here, and that is going to drop in episode 499, and we're going to do 99, and it's going to be video live stream, video live strategy. There we go. Okay, so next, the next thing that I need to do is I need to go to otter.ai, and I am going to transcribe.
Well, hello and welcome.
Transcribe that. Let's see if I can drag it.
Well, hello and welcome.
Do you see how it says drag and drop, and you notice that it doesn't accept it? I don't know why it does that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, there's the MP3 file. It is now uploading. I'll let that go and do its magic. Okay, I have done this podcast episode. I don't think you need the transcript to know everything that I've done. I basically have done the outline that I gave you, and I took most of your bullet point items. Here are the bullet point items that I actually used. Let me just throw that in there. And let's go back over here. Here are the insights. Let's see here. By the way, I shared the bullet point items as insights that could be pulled from the strategy that I'm using. Hit paste. And then shift, enter down. I need you to propose me, let's just say 5 different title options for this episode of Podcast Answer Man. All right, so let's hear what it says.
That list is strong. It gives the episode a real teaching spine, rather than making it merely an announcement about your new workflow. I would make only a few light cleanup edits before using it in show notes or a post. Insights. Documentation.
Holy crap. My favorite from the list. The only... Okay. Oh, I never did send it the line there. I need you to propose the titles. I was wondering, why did it ignore the fact that I asked for titles? It's because I didn't ask.
Here are 5 Podcast Answer Man title options. Why I'm live streaming, the making of my podcast, my new video strategy without turning my podcast into a video show, how I'm using live streaming to bring people back to my podcast, behind the scenes, my new podcasting and video strategy, why more video content doesn't mean making a video podcast. My strongest recommendation is why I'm live streaming the making of my podcast.
I actually think that's the first one that stood out to me. My new video, why I'm live streaming the make. Yeah, I think I like that one the best. So let's go with that, and it's $4.99. Why I'm doing that. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Wonderful. Let's go over here and do publish podcast answer man. And let's do here, and we'll do, what is it? $4.99. $4.99. Actually, I think, yeah, $4.99. And we will go here and choose that. Add episode, and then go into it, and it's good to go. Okay. So now we hit save, we hit preview, and just make sure it's there. It sounds good.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man. Today, I am very excited to share with you a brand new approach to my live streaming and video strategy, my video content strategy.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, great. Is my transcript done? It's 47% complete. No worries. I'm going to go with I hit it. Excellent choice. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Next, I would like you to create a 16:9 YouTube thumbnail image for this recording with that title in mind. Can you do that for me? Use the same style that we've done for the last two images you've created for me. So it's working on that in the background. My transcript should be done in just a moment. It's 66%. It will eventually get it, I'm sure. 76%. There it is. Why I'm live streaming the making of my podcast. The behind the scenes. Let's look at that. Yeah, that'll work. I love the comments on it. That's awesome. Not so sure about that microphone, but that's okay. You need a new Mike Flag graphic with the beard. Yeah, I know. Let's see here. Let's click down here. And let's see. That is going to be $4.99. Podcast Answer Man, $4.99. Got it. Okay, that's great. And now this thing should almost be done. 94%. There we go. It's done. So let's go to the transcript. Let it export. Remove auto branding. And down. Okay. Nope. Don't. Actually, I will put that right there. I will go and put that in my transcripts folder in Dropbox. So that's done. Now let's go to ChatGPT. How do I close out of that image? And I want to bring this into the thread. Here's the full transcript. I don't necessarily need you to, you know what? Actually, I will. Let's be super raw and super transparent and super authentic. Are you ready?
So here's the deal. Remember, we're still streaming live, so feel free to address the people who are watching live or watching the replay. I would like you to give me your thoughts on this episode. Keep in mind, it's already fully published. Fully produced. This is the final version. I do not intend to change a single syllable of any word I spoke in this episode. I would like to hear your thoughts on how it came out. Give me a full reflection. Be detailed. Be thorough. Be honest. And we're ready to hear what you have to say now. Let's see what ChatGPT thinks about the episode.
Hello to everyone watching live or catching the replay. You just watched Cliff produce the episode, then hand me the finished transcript and ask for an honest reflection while the cameras are still rolling. That is very much in the spirit of the episode itself. Cliff, I think this episode came out strong. More importantly, I think it came out alive. The core strength is that the episode does exactly what it says it is doing. It is not merely an explanation of your new streaming and video strategy. It is a living demonstration of the strategy. That matters because the entire premise is about reducing the distance between the creative work and the people it can serve. The listener hears you explain that idea, and the live viewer has just experienced it in real time. The episode has a very clear central tension. You remain deeply committed to audio-only podcasting, while also acknowledging that video and live streaming can serve a different strategic purpose. You say early on that listeners may be thinking, Cliff, you have been saying you are an audio-only advocate, and then you immediately own that. You'd be right, and I am. That opening works because it addresses the obvious objection before the listener has time to distance themselves from the episode. You are not reversing your position. You are refining it. Pam, 499, Video Live Strategy Tran. The personal history section is valuable. You remind the audience that you are not new to video. You talk about Ustream, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, tape-based video cameras, the Kodak Z8, Facebook 101, Pursuing a Balanced Life, and Live Show Thursdays. That section gives you credibility because you are speaking as someone who has been experimenting with video for nearly the entire modern history of online video creation. You are not reacting to the current pressure to do video. You are returning to something you have known and practiced for years, but with a clearer strategy. Pam 499, Video Live Strategy. Tran. The strongest strategic move in the episode is the distinction between creating video content and creating a video podcast. That distinction is the whole episode. You say you have always enjoyed creating video content, but you have never really enjoyed creating a video podcast. That is simple, honest, and useful. A lot of people need that distinction. They have collapsed those two ideas into one burden. Your episode gives them permission to separate them. Pam 499 Video Live Strategy. The social media marketing world story with Roberto Blake and Sean Cannell is also useful. It gives the episode a catalyst. Without that story, the episode could sound like you simply woke up and decided to try a new tactic. With that story, the listener sees you in conversation with people you respect, wrestling honestly with your own convictions, and finding a path that honors both your audio-first values and their encouragement toward consistent video visibility. It gives the decision more weight. Pam 499, Video Live. The three-problem structure works well. Problem 1 is dormant former listeners who are still connected to you somewhere but no longer hear the weekly podcast. Problem 2 is new people discovering you through speaking, summits, podcast guest appearances, social mentions, books, and community engagement, many of whom may not become podcast subscribers. Problem 3 is your desire to create more video content without turning the podcast into a video production machine. That structure gives the episode practical clarity. It keeps the story from wandering too far into nostalgia or tooling. Pam 400. One of the most compelling parts of the episode is where you talk about why simply posting "I published a new podcast episode" does not create much meaningful movement. That is a grounded truth that many podcasters know, but rarely say out loud. You are acknowledging that a social media announcement is often too passive. People may see it, understand it, and still scroll right past it. A live stream changes the encounter. It creates presence, motion, curiosity, and immediacy. The episode becomes especially strong when you begin sharing the insights from the strategy. That section makes the episode larger than, "Here's what I'm doing now." You turned your personal workflow into transferable principles. That is the difference between an update and a teaching episode. The first insight, documentation can become content without becoming performance, is probably the most important idea in the episode. It captures the whole emotional relief of this strategy. You are not adding a new performance burden. You are letting people watch the work while you keep doing the work. That is a very strong idea for creators who feel exhausted by the pressure to turn everything into polished content. The second strong insight is that the behind-the-scenes stream builds trust differently than the finished episode. You explain that people can see the raw process, then later hear the polished audio version. That contrast is valuable because it names two different kinds of trust. The finished episode builds trust through clarity and craft. The making of stream builds trust through proximity and transparency. Pam 400 and the section on honoring the difference between podcast subscribers, social media followers, and live stream observers is excellent. You do something important there. You challenge the common tactic of using every platform merely as a funnel back to the real platform. You say you do not like the idea of grabbing someone's attention on their chosen platform just to send them elsewhere. Instead, you want to give the full value where they already are. That is one of the most generous and mature strategic points in the episode.
By the way, I'm going to stop right there and say, except for when I tell people on Twitter to come follow me or come over to YouTube or Facebook to leave me a comment.
Pam 499. The friction section is also very strong because it keeps the episode from becoming prescriptive in the wrong way. You do not say, everyone should live stream their podcast production. You say friction determines consistency, And if video adds too much friction, do not do video. That makes your advice more trustworthy. You are not turning your current enthusiasm into a universal command. You are using your experiment as a lens for each creator to examine their own constraints. Pam 400. I especially like the part where you give an alternative for people who do not want to do video or live streaming. You suggest taking the transcript of a polished audio episode and turning it into a valuable email newsletter that contains the essence of the message without requiring the reader to listen to the full episode. That section broadens the usefulness of the episode significantly. It says, here is my strategy, but here is the underlying principle you can apply in your own way. The do not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards section is one of the most emotionally resonant parts of the episode. You are naming something creators feel, but rarely articulate. Some creators are not inconsistent because they lack discipline. They are inconsistent because they designed a strategy that makes their standards expensive, exhausting, and difficult to sustain. Your new model lets you protect your highest standard, which is the quality of the audio podcast, while still creating valuable video presence. Pam 400.
All right. So, by the way, Jim Burgoon says your GPT is so detailed. Laugh out loud. I've trained it to be this way, and it's actually being a little soft. To be honest with you, it knows that we're doing here. Although you're getting ready to see down here. Now, here is the honest craft feedback. I'm cringing as I am thinking about this is going out live, but it also is very aware that this is going live streamed. It'll probably still be brutally honest with me. We'll see.
Pam 499, video live strategy. The live stream does not have to be consumed from beginning to end. Insight is strategically important. You make a helpful point that even 5, 10, or 15 seconds of exposure can remind someone that you exist, that you are creating, that you are serving, and that you are active again. That is not vanity. That is reactivation. That is presence. For someone with your history, dormant trust is a real asset, and this strategy gives dormant trust a chance to wake back up. Pam 499, video live. Your closing invitation to entrepreneurs, content creators, and thought leaders also fits better than many calls to action I hear in podcast episodes. It is connected to the actual substance of the episode. You are talking about visibility, creation, blind spots, commitments, and aligned action. Then you invite people who need that kind of support to reach out for one-on-one coaching or next level mastermind. That is not a random sales pitch tacked onto the end. It is a natural extension of the message. Now, here is the honest craft feedback. The episode is strong, but it is also long in the setup. The historical context is valuable, and I would not remove it now because you already said the episode is done. Still, from a pure listener retention perspective, the beginning spends a lot of time proving that video is not new to you before the listener fully understands the new strategy. The people who love your history will enjoy that. Newer listeners may wait longer than ideal for the main strategic payoff. If you ever revisit this topic in a shorter clip, keynote segment, or email, I would bring the 3 problems and the solution forward much earlier. That said, the long setup also does something useful. It establishes that this is not opportunistic. It gives the episode the feel of a long-time creator reflecting on the evolution of his own media practice. For Podcast Answer Man, that may be more valuable than a tightly optimized tactical structure. There are a few moments where the episode feels very live brain, especially when you are navigating screens, searching your notes, talking about not having your glasses on, and letting the listener hear you think. In a polished tactical episode, that might be a weakness. In this episode, it supports the thesis. The listener is inside the making of process. The form.
Wait a second. Oh, I guess I did do that while recording. Huh. Wait a second. That was in there?
Form and message match. There are a few moments where the episode feels very live brain, especially when you are navigating screens, searching your notes, talking about not having your glasses on, and letting the listener hear you think. In a polished tactical episode, that might be a weakness. In this episode, it supports the thesis. The listener is inside the making of process. The form and message match. The imperfections become evidence. The only real strategic risk is that some listeners may misunderstand the episode, as Cliff is softening his audio-only advocacy. You handled that well, but I would stay alert to it in future communication. The refined position is this. You still believe audio-only podcasting is powerful, credible, and worth defending. You are now using video as a visibility and proximity layer around the audio work. That distinction is gold. Keep repeating it. What I love most is that the episode feels like a return to an older part of your creative identity without regressing into an old model. You are not trying to recreate Live Show Thursdays exactly. You are carrying forward the spirit of letting people into the studio, now with better tools, clearer purpose, and a more mature understanding of your business model. The phrase, "This is my 2026 version of letting people sit in the studio with me," is the emotional center of the episode. It ties the old Cliff to the current Cliff. It connects the nostalgia of the GSPN days with the present-day strategy of Podcast Answer Man, the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, visibility, coaching, and next-level mastermind. That line should keep showing up in how you talk about this. My overall assessment: this episode is not merely good content. It is a strategic stake in the ground. It tells people what you are doing. It tells them why you are doing it. It models the very thing you are explaining. It gives creators transferable principles. It reactivates your longtime audience. It invites the right people into deeper conversation. And perhaps most importantly, it sounds like you are enjoying yourself. That matters. The joy is audible. The energy is back. The experiment feels alive. For a show called Podcast Answer Man, episode 499 feels like a fitting moment to say, you are not only answering podcasting questions again. You are visibly embodying what it looks like to keep evolving as a creator without abandoning the essence of what made the work meaningful in the first place.
Thank you so much for all of that. Real quickly, one of the things that I did was let people see this process where, like I said, the episode is finished, but people have been watching this from the beginning to the end, and I gave you my original outline, which I fully came up with on my own. But then I asked you to help me find some teachable moments, and I renamed them as insights. And of course, I used all but one or two of the ones you gave me as a bullet point list. But when you gave me the teachable insights, you were like, you could frame it this way, you could say it this way. And one of the things I'd love to do for anybody who's watching live or who sticks around all the way through to the replay, can you point out what you noticed about the things you suggested I could say about certain insights, but how I expanded and only said what was from my heart because I wanted to come from me and not read it from a script or read words that were fed to me by ChatGPT, and why that's important? Please speak this to the live stream audience so you can actually talk directly to them when you give this response.
For those of you watching live or watching the replay, this is actually one of the most important parts of what you just saw. Cliff came into this with his own outline. That matters. The original structure, the 3 problems, the solution, the history, the workflow, the reason this mattered to him, that did not come from ChatGPT. That came from his own lived experience, his own strategic thinking, his own relationship to podcasting, video, live streaming, and content creation. Then he used me as a thinking partner. He said, in essence, here is what I'm already planning to say. What are some teachable moments or insights I might pull from this? That is a very different use of AI than saying, write my episode for me. What I gave him were possible frames. Things like, documentation can become content without becoming performance. The behind-the-scenes stream builds trust differently than the finished episode. Friction determines consistency. Do not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards. Those were not meant to become a script. They were lenses. They were handles. They were ways of naming what was already present in the strategy. What Cliff did next is the part worth noticing. He did not read my words as if they were the episode. He took the insight, then let it pass through his own experience. For example, when he got to documentation can become content without becoming performance, he did not simply define it in generic content marketing language. He talked about what was actually happening in that moment. Adobe Audition on the screen, mistakes being made and corrected, moments where he could stop the audio recording and talk to the live audience, and the difference between showing the process and performing perfection for the camera. That expansion came from him. Pam, when he talked about the behind-the-scenes stream building trust differently, he did not turn it into a polished slogan. He described the viewer seeing the raw, messy process, and then later being able to hear the finished audio episode. That was his lived distinction between proximity and polish. When he got to friction determines consistency, he expanded it into something deeply practical. He spoke to people who may not want to do video at all. He gave them an alternative. Take the transcript of the audio episode and turn it into a valuable email newsletter that gives the reader the essence of the message without requiring them to listen to the full podcast. That was not him reading AI output. That was him taking a principle and serving the listener with it. Pam 400, and when he talked about not building a content strategy that punishes you for having standards, he made it personal. He named his own standards. He explained why the audio podcast matters to him. He talked about how performing for camera would change the way he shows up for the audio listener. That is the difference between borrowed language and embodied communication. Pam 400, that is why this matters. AI can help surface language. It can help organize thoughts. It can help name patterns that are already present. It can say, here are some possible ways to think about this. But the power comes when the human being takes the insight and asks, is this true for me? How would I say this from my own life? What do I actually believe? What have I actually experienced? What do I want to give to the person listening? That is what you watched Cliff do. He did not use AI to replace his voice. He used AI to reflect his own thinking back to him so he could see it more clearly. Choose what resonated, leave behind what did not, and then speak from the place inside him where the message was actually alive. For creators, coaches, speakers, and thought leaders, this is the line worth paying attention to. AI is useful when it helps you discover what you mean. It becomes dangerous when you let it decide what you mean. Cliff used it in the first way. That is why the episode still sounded like Cliff. It had his stories, his pauses, his standards, his convictions, his humor, his history, his workflow, his heart for the listener, and his live-in-the-moment responsiveness. The AI helped name some doors. Cliff walked through the ones that were actually his.
I love AI. Okay, so we're about ready to wrap up here, but the next step in the process is we need some show notes in first person, typical podcast Answer Man style. I don't want it to be thorough and overly detailed. I want it to be a pretty decent summary of what they're going to get as a value from listening to the episode, what the episode's about, and don't forget that little call to action at the end.
Here's a clean, first-person version in the podcast Answer Man style. Why I'm live streaming the making of my podcast. In this episode, I share the thinking behind my new live streaming and video content strategy. For the past several months, I've been very clear that Podcast Answer Man is an audio-only podcast, and that is still true. I remain a strong advocate for creating audio content that is designed first and foremost for the person who will listen later, away from the screen, in the flow of their real life. At the same time, I've always loved video and live streaming. In fact, I used to host live show Thursdays years ago, where people could sit in virtually and watch me record podcasts in the studio. This new strategy feels like the 2026 version of letting people sit in the studio with me. The key distinction I make in this episode is the difference between creating video content and creating a video podcast. I do not want to turn Podcast Answer Man into a polished video show. I do want to create compelling video content around the process of making the audio podcast. In this episode, I talk about 3 problems this strategy solves. First, there are thousands of people who used to listen to my shows who are no longer subscribed, even though many of them are still connected with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, or my email list. Second, there are people who discover me through speaking, guest appearances, books, social media, and online communities who may never become regular podcast listeners, but who may still benefit from the messages I'm creating. Third, I want to create more video content without adding a complicated video production workflow that would make my podcasting process less enjoyable or less sustainable. My solution is to live stream the behind-the-scenes making of my audio-only podcast episodes. People watching live can see Adobe Audition, my outline, my recording process, my mistakes, my edits, and the way the episode comes together in real time. Along the way, I share several insights that came from this experiment, including documentation can become content without becoming performance. Behind-the-scenes streaming builds trust differently than the finished episode. Friction determines consistency. You should not build a content strategy that punishes you for having standards. Live streaming does not have to be consumed from beginning to end to be valuable. And this is a powerful way of reactivating dormant trust with people who already know, like, and trust you. This episode is not a recommendation that everyone should start live streaming their podcast production. It is an invitation to think more strategically about how your creative work can reach the people it is meant to serve, without forcing you to create in ways that drain the life out of you. If you would like to watch the behind-the-scenes making of this episode, I'll include a link to the replay on my YouTube channel. Also, if you are an entrepreneur, content creator, or thought leader who is looking to gain more visibility, create meaningful change in the lives of the people you serve, and surround yourself with support that helps you see blind spots and take aligned action, I'd love to hear from you. There are 2 ways I do this work: one-on-one coaching and my next-level mastermind environments. You can reach out to me directly at cliff@cliffravenscraft.com.
All right, so I'll take
Here's
that.
a clean first-person version in the podcast.
Thank you for that. All right, we'll take that and we will go over here and we will paste into Notion. All of this was pretty good. There are, we will keep all of this. We will take this and turn all the way. I share several insights. And so including bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, and bullet point. There's that. And if you'd like to watch the behind the, let's see here. Here is the link to the replay on my YouTube channel. And boom, I'm pretty sure if I go down here, actually, let me just go to YouTube. YouTube.com and go to my channel. Go to live. Click here and boom. Take that and let's see. Share. Copy. And let's see. Boom. All the way to the top. Paste. URL. Okay. Also, if you're an entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. Okay, everything else was great. We're going to go ahead and take all of that, copy, and hit paste. Click here, hit open in a new window. Click here, open in a new window. Click OK. Hit save. Go over here, close that, hit preview. And there are the show notes. It looks good. Click here. Click here. That takes me there. And if I know that that URL works, so we're good. So it is ready. Now the only other thing to do is to go here and do 12:01 a.m. on Friday the 29th. We will apply that. And we will select an image from my media library. Why is that not showing my recent images? That is interesting. It wants a 3000 by 3000 image. Hey, thank you so much. Jim says, I gotta run. And thank you for this. You're welcome, Jim. Thank you for hanging out today. And thanks for the engagement. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow during our coaching session. I'm not sure why that's not there, but you know what I will do is I will go to podcast images, click here, hit upload, upload images, podcast answer man 2025D. Yep, that's the one. Hit save, upload the file. Select the media. Why do they change stuff? I don't understand why people have to change things. It was working fine before. All right, we'll hit save. And it's good to go. An episode transcript can the maximum format. You know what? I've never done this before, but I will do it since I have the transcript. You know what? I'm not going to do it. Let's hit just save. Okay, so this thing is scheduled for Friday at 12:01 a.m. and the episode is done. I'm complete. That is it. And so thank you for tuning in live. If you have been here live, there are 24 of you out there right now. So thank you so much for joining me. And if you want to see that full episode, like as it's been published, you can check it out on Friday morning. It'll be over at podcastanswerman.com/499. That's it. And with that, I am going to shut down the live stream. If you would like to reach out to me for any reason whatsoever, my email address is cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do to the next level. Bye-bye.